Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to, believe it or not, another episode of the Left Wing Live. I am TJ Whitehead, Powers Taken Not Given, joined as always by John Cooper of Counterpoint Politics, and we are blessed to have Tennessee Brando here for the second, third, fourth time. We're not sure, but we're happy. How you doing, How you doing today, my friend?
Hey, man, I'm so glad to be back. Good to be with you guys.
Well, I wish we were meeting under better conditions, better circumstances, because yikes,
sure.
what the hell is going on? So we were ready to talk about four different topics today. One of them was going to be the appointments for Donald Trump, and I had written all of them down, all the crazy stuff. And then I'm sure you guys saw an hour ago, we had the big one come down. RFK Jr., Department of Health and Human Services. I don't know what to say. I really don't. But Tennessee Brandon, we'll go to you first. What were your thoughts when you saw the distinguished RFK Jr. going to be in charge of our vaccines now?
Man, I was sitting back holding out on one little tiny shred of hope, like that maybe they would distance themselves from him. You know, it's like that's that one little, like, hoping. But I wasn't optimistic, to be honest. And when I heard that, I just thought, okay, so now what does this mean? Are we going to be drinking raw milk? And, are we going to be having water with no fluoride and no vaccines? That's truly, out of all the picks that he's made so far, for me, this one's the most terrifying. And, I don't know that I have words or have an answer. But, yeah.
I know, it's rough. John, what were your thoughts when you ran across this?
So I had thoughts, and then I saw Brando just brought 347 viewers to our live stream.
Yeah.
Man, Brando, I've never seen a triple digit there. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. And I just sprung it. I mean, hell, I didn't know that I didn't realize. Well, I did realize this feature was there, but I wasn't sure if we could pull it off. And I seen it. It said, stream with your audience too. So I thought, hey, the more the merrier. Let's bring them in.
Well, awesome. Well, welcome everyone who's joining us on the Left Wing. We, me and TJ here, talk to a lot of left-wing content creators. Oh, no, Cost Cinema, you did not need to do that. Thank you very much. If all 400 of you did that, I could buy a better microphone, just saying that.
Oh, absolutely. Help these guys out.
But yeah, we're going to be talking about some RFK Jr. here. This was one, like, you guys are holding out hope. I had this like locked in stone. Like this is something that like I've already gotten upset about. So today's news wasn't that upsetting because it's like, yeah, we saw this coming ever since he endorsed Donald Trump. We knew that was the tit for tat, and we're kind of just here now. My question is, how does the Department of Health and Human Services operate underneath RFK? Because you have real scientists doing real jobs that they really believe in. Mm-hmm. They're not like yes men in the same way that other bureaucracies can be made to be. Like, what are they actually going to be able to accomplish? You know what I'm saying? It's kind of a really awkward situation that the entire institution is put under. It doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, that's something that I was kind of holding out for because I was trying to find the most charitable way to possibly look at this with RFK Jr. And I don't even know the story was real because I didn't click on it, but I saw that some people were threatening to resign because of RFK's interactions. But that would only make the problem worse if they resigned and then RFK Jr. could just put his yes men in there and, go back to, I don't know, bloodletting or whatever RFK Jr. would be foisting upon the American people. And so I was trying to think of stuff that RFK Jr. propagated that I said was actually a good idea. And a really funny one, at least to me, is that he's on a crusade to take processed foods out of school lunches. And if you guys remember, there was someone named Michelle Obama who tried to do the same thing during the Obama administration. And in 2017, Trump's Department of Agriculture came out with, he called it, make school lunches great again, because he's a very original thinker, this guy. And he was just saying, what we're going to do is during the Obama years, what they tried to do was stop schools. Of course, they framed it as limiting freedom. They took away the school's freedom to buy garbage to feed your kids. And now school lunches cost more. And when the food doesn't taste as good, the kids don't eat as much of it. So the schools are throwing away all this food and schools are opting out of the program. It turned out 85% of the schools bought into the program. It was like a small 15% that decided they weren't going to do it. And so he said, what we're going to do is allow schools to buy this cheap, unprocessed food and feed it back to your kids. Now, 7 years later, they're putting RFK in there, who says he'll do the same thing. So listen, I'm not going to be like the Republicans. I'm saying, look, that's a good idea. Okay, like taking processed food out of school, good idea. I don't know if Trump will go along with it because this goes against everything Republicans. Then again, what Republicans even stand for anymore? Well, what the hell do they stand for? Yeah, what are they now? Yeah, so
are they even a party?
No. The Republican Party is like a church in a weird way. Yeah, it's a church that worships Donald Trump. So I try to find like the small areas that might lead to some good. The school lunch thing, yeah, but John, you're right. The people who I was wondering how they're going to do this because there's actual research that goes into the HHS and to stuff like this and getting vaccine schedules out there. And the stuff RFK says is insane. So I can see them fighting back and clawing and doing whatever they can to slow this tide because he's only going to be there for 4 years maximum. But I'm not sure exactly how much executive authority the director has over it. And like if he can dismiss people at his pleasure. I mean, civil service is a little hard with that. They're not political appointees, but they can make it a lot harder, which, folks, is the only reason the Republican Party exists. The Republican Party exists to break the government so they can turn around and say, look how bad. Oh, sorry, Ron, go ahead. Look how bad the government is.
No, you're absolutely right. That's what they're going for now is to absolutely destroy the government. And they've been on this crusade for a long time. This is everything that they've wanted to see happen, really. And now we're just seeing him build this cabinet. And every time he picks someone, it's someone who has absolutely no respect for the position that they're coming into. It's like they really don't. And so I don't know how it's all going to play out. I don't know what kind of backlash we're going to see. And I don't know what kind of checks and balances are going to be in there, to be honest with you. But it's just, I have listened to RFK Jr. for those that's like, well, you never listen to the other side. No, actually I do. I listen to him very closely and what they have to say. And I've sat and listened to his 3-hour interviews with Joe Rogan. And I'm like, I've listened to what he's had to say. And so I don't know. This is the one, I can so understand. John said he had no hope left, but I was just going, come on, please. Like, let there be one. Because I think we are going to see some people get snubbed by Trump after doing this. But like you said, it was one of those tit for tat things. And I think that he definitely had to pay him back for that endorsement. So now here we are.
So here's the thing we have to remember, guys. None of these, and we're going to be talking about a lot of the nominees that have come in over the past couple of days, but good chance none of them will be here in a couple of years. Because Trump's last round of appointees, I believe, had a 92% turnover rate from year 1 to year 4. Of the people that he nominated in year 1, almost all of them weren't there by the end of year 4. And we have no idea how any of this is going to go. I will say this about RFK. I think that he is an idiot with a generally good heart, similar to Joe Rogan, where I don't think there's definitely malicious people in this. We'll get to Stephen Miller. We'll get to Matt Gaetz. But I don't think RFK is malicious. I think that he is generally trying to do the right thing. It's just historically the way he's gone about doing that has killed thousands of people. And
I can see that.
I think there might be a small, tiny little bit of hope that if you just put RFK with the people who actually are doing the research, they might be able to convince him of some shit. If you think about the Joe Rogan mindset, it's not hard to get them to change their mind. There might be some hard settled, difficult barriers to overcome. But again, of all of the appointments, the RFK one, as dumb as it is, I don't know. It's not the one I'm most worried about. I'll put it that way.
Yeah,
and we don't. That's kind of a world's tallest midget thing, but
and we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen once this all gets in place, or how well are they all going to be able to work together? I mean, we've seen Trump. He's definitely coming in. He's surrounded himself by yes men. He's surrounded himself by people who he feels will do his bidding. But how soon will it be before their egos collide? It comes off the rails, and suddenly Trump says they're the most terrible person ever. I mean, what's going to happen? Because I do agree with you that I think RFK Jr. is a moron with a good heart. It's like I don't think he's necessarily like mean spirited necessarily. So what's going to happen when he butts heads with Trump on something? What's going to happen when any of them does is the question I have.
Yeah, I am waiting for the implosion as well. When this cabinet that he's putting together, it looks like one of those wish cabinets that you'd see politically, where people would just throw out a bunch of stuff that didn't really make any sense. Hold on, what does that say?
I didn't require you to read that, TJ. I just put it on the screen because I thought it was a good point. But American Wasp says, as I say on my channel, a loser is someone that is capable of winning, but doesn't because they don't learn from their losses. The DNC is a party of losers, and hell yeah, brother. That's pretty much it. Go listen to our whole last show. It's all agreeing with that statement.
I wanted to say that I think it was Jesus who said that you should judge someone by their friends. And I wanted to play this by RFK and see what he had to say here.
Yeah. So, and you run into everybody in New York. I mean, I knew Harvey Weinstein. I knew Roger Ailes. I knew O.J. Simpson came to my house. Bill Cosby came to my house.
Yeah, just wanted to throw that out there with RFK, that he had a decent social circle there. That was, I think, in response to someone asking, "Hey, you said you were friends with Jeffrey Epstein." He's like, "Well, I was friends with everybody. Harvey Weinstein, O.J. Simpson, Bill Cosby. We all got together." Yeah, so I don't know how good of a person RFK Jr. is. Like, he might mean well, but good person, I'm not sure.
Yeah, exactly.
That's probably a good point, TJ. I doubt that. I doubt. Okay, TJ. I doubt most people on that level of politics are good people, but it's half a dozen of one, six of another.
yeah. So that was the surprise one. I have 6 people written down here. We couldn't possibly get to them all in one show, so we'll go one by one and talk about which one of us you think is the worst candidate Trump picked. John, we'll start with you. Which is the worst pick so far that you've seen?
So I'll go with a curveball here, because I'm going to say something that a lot of people aren't going to say to this. But of the most damaging cabinet members that Donald Trump has picked, the one I think is going to hurt us the most is Stephen Miller as Deputy Chief of Staff of Policy. Stephen Miller is like a lot of these guys. RFK, we just called him an idiot, because he is. Stephen Miller is not. Stephen Miller is evil incarnate. He is a very, very, very intelligent, very, very bad man. And him being in charge of policy, and it seems like in particular, he's going to be in charge of Trump's mass deportation policy. That is the one that gives me the most Nazi-ish vibes of the entire thing. The one that's probably going to do the most damage. And because he's been with Trump since his first presidency, he's not going anywhere. He is firmly entrenched, and that one is going to really hurt. He said in a tweet, he said a lot of things, but one in particular, on election night, he said, quote, "Illegals are raping and murdering American children. All the men of America need to fulfill their duty, go to the voting booth, and end the invasion once and for all." If that doesn't sound like some Nazi ass rhetoric to you, you're about to hear a lot more, and it's going to be coming, because that man is actually capable of doing the crazy shit that he says, unlike a lot of these other cabinet positions. But that would be my pick for worst, if you are going from a perspective of most damaging to this country. But there are certainly worse ones in just pure stupidity. But we'll get to those short. Tennessee, what do you think?
Yeah, I think he's definitely probably the most dangerous of them all. He definitely concerns me the most, and I know we're going to get to more of them as we go through the show. But it's just one of them things where now they've got. I saw Brian Tyler Cohen say something that's kind of stuck with me. He's like, if there's any silver lining in this cloud at all, it's that now they've got what they wanted. So now they've got to deliver one way or the other. They're going to have to deliver to their base, and if they don't, it's going to be back. I think there's going to be backlash when they deliver or when they don't deliver. So they got everything they wanted. The ball's in their court, and now if they fumble, it could be a whole different ball game.
Yeah, that is a pretty bad one. Both of those, I think. Stephen Miller, especially. I like Stephen Miller because he's the one who looks the most cartoonishly evil. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's always nice when a bad guy looks like a bad guy. And Stephen Miller,
he really does.
Yeah, right. It's like
Stephen Tucci would play the shit out of him.
Oh, he would. He would. It'd be good. Yeah, like if you saw something like a wizard turned a rat into a human being, it would look a lot like Stephen Miller. I think we all agree on that one. And this was so I expected, me to have to pull the wild card, but John, you already did. But my wild card is going to be Mike Huckabee as the ambassador to Israel. That one, it's one of those things too where Trump knows like he's playing with house money at this point. He knows he can't be impeached. He knows he's not going to jail. He knows this is his last term. It doesn't matter what he does anymore. So he's putting in all the inmates to run this asylum. And Mike Huckabee, just like salt in the wound, we already know that Trump was going to be the worst person to handle the Israel-Gaza situation. But folks, just look up the statements Mike Huckabee has said about it. Mike Huckabee stated that as far as he's concerned, the West Bank doesn't exist. It's not a real thing. He says that it's Judea and Samaria. He refers to everything as being passed down from a biblical mandate. So it's not that necessarily that I think Israeli policy is going to be worse under Huckabee. I think it'll be the same. But the fact that they just go full bore and picking Mike Huckabee to show, oh yeah, this is how insane our policy is actually going to be, says a lot.
That's where I disagree. I think it's going to be worse, TJ. I think that's just. I think the West Bank's Israel now. I think Gaza's Israel now. I think it's all Israel now. I think there is no Palestine in 4 years.
No, I think that would happen either way, Huckabee or no Huckabee. I'm just saying Huckabee's not going to make it worse.
No. Yeah. I would have like if Harris had won, I would have.
No, I mean under a Trump administration.
Oh, no matter who it was. Okay.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Yeah, but yeah, between Huckabee as ambassador to Israel and Rubio as Secretary of State, Ukraine and Palestine are just fucked. They're just fucked. Yeah. We lost that war, and we're very sorry to the residents of those places because you're fucked. And I'm so sorry about it. Like I'm saying it with levity because I have no idea how else to say it. It is truly a dark situation.
Well, yeah, dark situations. We got to cover Matt Gaetz. Tenny Sobrano, I'll throw it to you. Matt Gaetz, going to be appointed as Attorney General, was it? I mean, yeah, what's up with that?
And apparently he's resigned from Congress. So he's resigned from Congress, and Kevin McCarthy is saying that this one won't get through. I have to be honest with the audience here. I don't understand fully how this all works because they're saying straight up front, Kevin McCarthy he's not going to be confirmed. He's not going to make it. So my question is, will RFK be confirmed? I don't know exactly. I got to be honest. I don't know exactly how that works, but here Matt Gaetz is. He's a guy who I worry about because he has such disdain already for the Department of Justice. He's already angry at them because he feels like the government's been weaponized against him. And that's one of the things, that they did such a, I'm not giving them credit here, but they just did such a job of like portraying the deep state and portraying, the weaponization of government to create them as the enemy that now if Matt Gaetz comes out swinging at them, MAGA's going to be sitting back cheering him on. They're going to be sitting back going, way to go. Yeah, get back at him, And I sometimes say to myself, okay, this would be like if Al Capone had a position of power like this. This would be like if Al Capone was put in office and suddenly it's like, hey, me and John Dillinger ain't so bad. You know what I mean? It's one of those moments where you look at people who surrounds himself with Trump and you think back on Matt Gaetz and how that he just sang his praises the entire time. Whatever Trump said, he was right there with it. Could it be because of all of the skeletons in his closet? And he knew, hey, if I surround myself with Trump, then I can get a pass, and MAGA will think the deep state was just coming after me. I worry about him because of his disdain for the department itself and what he will do now that, if he's confirmed and can have control over that. That's I worry about them all, but I do worry about him in that role for sure.
So the thing about Matt, there's several. The Matt Gaetz appointment is by far the most interesting from a number of angles because, yeah, you're right. It's sort of inmates run the asylum, but there is the House Judiciary Ethics Committee report is set to come out on Friday. By him resigning, they technically no longer have jurisdiction to release the report. But the Senate, including Republicans in the Senate, are calling for that report to be made public before nominating him. And I don't know, because as much as Republicans have a hard on for Trump and they know that it's hard to go against him, they really hate Matt Gaetz. Like, he is one of the most hated people on Capitol Hill. People despise him. It's probably the only pick that might even put up a fight. And I saw some speculation today that, Trump actually nominated Gaetz in order to be the sacrificial lamb so he could say, you guys don't nominate him, but push through the rest of my choices. No. It was reported today by Politico that he was not on the short list the day that he was selected. He got on a plane with Donald Trump and convinced him to make him attorney general while his chief of staff, what's her name? Willa, completely forgetting the chief of staff's name, Susie Wiles, was in a different room. His chief of staff didn't know that Trump committed to making him attorney general on this plane ride. And that is how this all happened. It is the most clear example to me of how this presidency is going to go. Because it's just going to be clusterfuck after clusterfuck. I really, it is giving me hope. It's giving me a breath of fresh air. As awful as it is to have him as attorney general, I don't think he's going to last that long anyway. So like, I would rather incompetence than malicious competence. I'd rather the stupidest things happen for the next 4 years than have the smart people running the ship. I don't know. That's the way I see this entire thing. TJ, what do you think?
Yeah, with Matt Gaetz, I don't know. I'm sure you guys saw with the report that he's under a federal ethics investigation for sex trafficking with minors. Him and a buddy of his who already went to jail for this, and they've got records, they've got videos, and they've been talking about doing this report for a long time. And at the buzzer, like, I don't know what Matt Gaetz said to Donald Trump to nominate him for this job, but Gaetz is certainly under the impression that he's getting this job. The fact, like Tennessee Brandon mentioned, the fact that he resigned from Congress, and Matt Gaetz resigning from Congress isn't just something that doesn't matter. It's a big deal because the House majority is still razor thin. So him leaving takes away one of the seats from the Republicans, and they need to have a special election. Now, of course, that's going to go to a Republican anyway. Gaetz comes from a pretty safe district, but he's not acting like someone who doesn't plan on getting the job. And as to him staying a short time, yeah, possibly. I mean, I remember when Trump came in office the first time, he nominated Jeff Sessions. If you guys remember Jeff Sessions from back in the day, I think he was a senator from Alabama. And Jeff Sessions was a horrible person too. And he quit. He said, I can't work with Donald Trump. But this new slew of people that they're nominating, I think they know what an awful person Trump is, and they don't care. They love living in the mud like this. And this time is going to be pretty difficult. I heard someone say this, and I thought it was perfect to describe this last week, honestly, that what makes this so depressing is that you turn on the news, you open up your phone, you just look around where you live. The worst people are insanely happy, and the best people are really depressed. That's just the best way to describe it. That you spend your entire life trying to live a certain way, trying to admonish people, trying to raise children, just trying to make the world a better place, just doing the best that you can. And then you have people who are just consumingly and hilariously evil in every sense of the word. And they're loving it. They cannot get enough of what's going on. And that's like, whether it's a success or a failure, well, I mean, it's definitely going to be a failure, but whether it's a catastrophic failure or a garden variety failure, it's still incredibly depressing. That's how I see it.
I agree. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm interested to see how the Gaetz thing works specifically, because him resigning, you're right, it is a aggressive move. And one might say that it's a move that someone would make if they knew really damning evidence about their sexual relationship with a 17-year-old was about to come out on Friday, and they wanted to do everything to stop that from happening. Not that this is going to sink any fucking Trump administration or anything, but the way that you see Republicans even distancing themselves from this it does lead me to believe that there is a lot of fire behind this smoke, and it is the kind of thing where you can sort of start to make building blocks of some sort of legal resistance to things that are going on. It's nothing in and of itself, but if you stack up enough of these, it's going to create a negative feedback loop. Because you mentioned, TJ, a lot of the worst people you know are very happy about these things, but also a lot of the worst people you know are upset about some of them. Like, I've seen a lot of Republicans upset about Trump picking war hawks, such as Rubio, to be in his cabinet. I'm seeing cracks form. And the thing with Donald Trump is that he's a constant feedback loop. Like, he doesn't actually really have positions that he truly holds dear to himself. He's very much manipulated by getting people to like him. He's kind of like Homelander. Homelander became like him, to be honest. But like, it's a very accurate representation. And so if you're able to just reverse the Trumpism, how Trump just smashes us with so much misinformation and lies and incredibly boorish behavior that like we can't focus on any one thing. If you begin to destroy enough things about him and get enough people that were on his side, that whose opinion he cares about, to be upset with him, I don't know. I'm just looking at silver linings here because it's all fucked. But I do think he is already making the bed that he's going to have to lie in, and it is not a very strongly fortified bed. I'm encouraged by the stupidity so far, to say the least.
Yeah, I really feel like it's one of those things. I feel like we're just going to sit back and watch it self-destruct. And the sad part about it is all the people that's going to be affected by it when it does. You know what I mean? That's the thing. I think a lot of people in MAGA land, they're of the nature, they don't trust the system, they don't trust the government, they don't trust any of our institutions, and they're all for burning it down. So you're going to see them be gleeful about this. You're going to see them, yeah, let RFK Jr. I mean, Trump literally said, "Have fun with it, Bobby." That's literally what he said. And so they're just all right now flexing. They're all right now excited about it. And my question is, what's going to happen when all this starts to come into play and it starts to hit them? And suddenly they look around and go, wait a minute, why is this happening to us? We thought it was supposed to be great again, and suddenly it's not. Will they already have a built-in scapegoat and somehow find a way to blame it on the Democrats? Or will they finally start to wake up to realize, they played us to get in here and to get power? So it's going to be interesting to see the next 2 years, especially. It's going to be really interesting to see how long they can all work together. Because even though, the first time around Trump was working with people that were in the system, now he's just picking the crazies to run the asylum. But it's still one of those thoughts like, how far will they be able to go before the wheel starts to come off themselves and we sit back and watch them self-destruct? My thing is, I just feel bad for all the people that's going to be affected while they do it.
That's a really good segue into our next topic. But before we get to that, I just want to say, everyone watching, like and subscribe. We very much appreciate you being here, the left wing, and just do that and continue to watch our videos, because we have Tennessee Brando on all the time, many guests like him, and we're trying to build a coalition of content creators here to have a resistance of in any way, shape, or form, and build, what the right has built that got Donald Trump elected. That's what we're trying to build over here. So very much appreciate all your viewership. TJ, when we were talking this morning about what topics we wanted to discuss, you had mentioned that you wanted to talk about how much of Trump's agenda you think he's actually going to be able to implement here in this country.
Yeah.
And kind of what I was saying earlier, the stupidity of the cabinet positions gives me hope that it's not as much as some fascists out there may have hoped. But what were your thoughts before the nominations, and have the nominations changed your thoughts at all?
All right, so with that, what I wanted to mention, it ties right into this with Donald Trump and who he picks and how it's going to affect his legacy and his policies and everything. I don't have, I guess, Tennessee Brando didn't have confidence, but he had optimism that people would be able to see the error of their ways because, oh, look, everything has gone to shit since Trump has been elected and everything. But they do have a built-in scapegoat. During COVID, it was COVID because a lot of people would talk about, we want the Trump days back because, with Trump, gas was $1.15 and stuff like that. It's like, well, that was low because of COVID, obviously. And they say, well, unemployment was low. Well, not during COVID, it wasn't. You can't have it both ways. They try to do that with Trump and everything. But these people are scapegoats. I'm saying, like, when things start to fall apart, they're going to say, well, what do you expect? He nominated, well, we had an idiot like Matt Gaetz as attorney general. We had Mike Huckabee as an ambassador. We had RFK. What was going on there with Health and Human Services? And we try to say, well, Trump nominated those. Well, he fired them, right? He fired them. So we know it's fine. That shows what a genius Donald Trump is. There's no way to talk them out of this because they've got that built-in scapegoat.
That's a great point.
Yeah, it's just like there's nothing. And it's the same thing. It's like when they talk about all the wild conspiracies that Donald Trump's going to come in and Donald Trump is going to expose all of the pedophiles and all that stuff. Trump was in 4 years, nothing at all. When they asked about Epstein's files, he's like, I don't know, there's some fake stuff in there, so I don't want to release it. Like the most suspicious answer ever. And I think that's what's going to happen, that even if things get really bad, the 74 whatever million people who voted for Trump, they're not going to change their minds. They are going to find some way to kind of defend him. I am interested in Trump's effect on the English language and how that's gonna come, because we talk about all the time our favorite Trumpisms. It's one of my favorite things to do. And John, when you mentioned that Tennessee Brando's been on the show, you're like, a lot of our listeners really like him. I thought many people are saying. I immediately thought that Donald Trump has an indelible stamp on the way we speak, whether you like it or not. He lives in your brain rent free. My favorite is tears in their eyes. I love saying tears in their eyes now. Yeah, it's like big men, strong men, tears in their eyes. So I don't know what his success rate is going to be for policy. Oh, the important one. Forgot the jokes, but the important one. I think he's going to be pretty limited. And we talked about this last episode, John, because there are powers at play who actually don't want the economy to completely crash. As bad as corporate CEOs and billionaires are, they would be in a world of shit if everything falls apart. So Trump puts a 200% tariff on all imported goods. The economy's cooked. It's done. So they're going to allow them to do some damage to hurt us, but not enough to let them hurt them quite as much, which unfortunately is a rather wide margin. But we'll see what happens. What do you think, Tennessee?
Yeah, I just, at this point, I'm sitting back watching all this unfold, and I think back to conversations that we had before the election, and we thought we were going to be in a different place. And honestly, before the election, I was talking to you guys, I was talking to different content creators, and we were talking about how that once we won this thing, that, I was like, how's the Republican Party going to rebrand? Where are they going to go from here? And I literally thought someone like a Matt Gaetz would be laughed out of the room. I thought that was the end of him. And so now here we are with the Trump victory and him appointing all the people who I thought were long overdue to just be laughed completely out of the room. And you're right. I don't think they will. They'll always find a way. The loyal Trump supporters will always find a way to even blame these people that they're excited about now. They'll find a way to blame Matt Gaetz later, or RFK Jr. later, or whoever later. I hate using the word cult. I didn't like using it the first time I ever said it, but I can't remember the name of the guy, but a friend of mine sent me a clip of this Republican saying, the American people have spoken. And whatever Donald Trump says, we must do. If Trump says jump 3 feet off the ground, we're all going to jump 3 feet off the ground. If he says put our hands on our head, it's one of the craziest things I've ever heard, and they're saying that. Like, hey, let's just go out here and whatever he says now, the guardrails are off. Whatever he wants to do, he's done it, because they're playing it from the angle of, oh, the American people have spoken. So now you all must just do whatever we want. And this is a place I didn't think we would be a week ago. And here we are.
So this brings me to a good question, because there's been talk about the mandate to rule. And of course, Republicans are claiming a landslide victory. They have this mandate to implement Trump's policy. Yeah. And if you look at the Electoral College score and the fact that they got the trifecta, there's reasoning behind that. But if you take a mandate to rule in a democratic society in a literal sense, he does not have that. He didn't really gain votes or anything. The Democrats lost votes. It's not like this is a Reagan era Democratic landslide where the population in general is primed to go along with what the government does. And the flip side of a Trump presidency is that it gets fucking eyeballs. It gets people to pay attention to politics that wouldn't have otherwise paid attention to politics. And if things are outlandish enough, for example, like TJ mentioned, the powers that be won't let him implement a 20% tariff. But when he implemented tariffs, last time around, it pissed off the fucking farmers. It pissed off a lot of people. And if he does enough damage, we saw the fucking vitriol against inflation during the Biden administration. It's going to sit on him if it's bad enough. And there's only so many scapegoats before the mob eats itself. And I'm very interested to see. Best case scenario, again, guys, we get first Trump presidency, maybe a little worse. That's our best case scenario here. But if it gets bad enough quickly enough, which the guardrails are off to a certain extent, and it could get that bad, the conventional wisdom says people are going to stick with Trump no matter what. But honestly, I'm not so sure about that. I think eventually there is a breaking point because his entire impetus, his entire appeal is that, he'll help the working class. And if it gets bad enough, eventually the wolves will eat their own. I don't know. I'm interested to see what happens there. Again, I hope that that's not the case. I really do. But it's certainly on the table.
I think that it's more than hoping it's not the case. It's kind of the only way it can end, right? It's the only way it can end. This is like, you're not a fascist and a team player at the same time. You're not. Everyone has their own strangely divergent goals. They're united around hatred. Like, it's an entire party that's built on spite. And you can see this in all of their merch and everything that they say. It's very rare. They have the nebulous concept of making America great. But after that, it's just denigrating people. It's insulting people. It's, why can't I make these jokes to make people feel bad so I can feel good about myself? And Brando, you had mentioned that there was this guy who said that if Donald Trump says jump, we say how high. We say jump 3 feet, rub your head. We'll jump 3 feet and rub our head. Not alpha. I gotta add. I mean, it seems like the least masculine thing you could do. But that guy's name was Troy Nels. That's that guy's name. Yeah, I forget where he's from. But I remember Troy Nels for two particular reasons. One is after a school shooting, he showed up in Congress wearing an AR-15 pin.
Yes,
he was that guy. He did that, and also he went on this crusade when he joined the House to overturn the House rule against smoking on the floor, because he would if you Google pictures of him, he's always holding a cigar, like a 19th century robber baron or something like that. And it's like, these are profoundly unserious people with a serious amount of power, and it's dangerous. I mean, listen, I was actually really jazzed to do the show until the RFK. I don't know why the RFK one broke me so much, but it was just a casting. I think it's because I realized it's only going to get worse. It's only going to get worse. And once again, John, you're right. I was naive to think this, but say what you want about Mike Pence, which Mike Pence was like a garbage politician, obviously, but he was a serious person and he took his duties seriously. And you can't say about JD Vance. You cannot say that about JD Vance. Yeah. Steven, you can't like Jim Mattis, all the bad things I say about Jim Mattis. You can't say that about, Stephen Miller. The people that are Jeff Sessions, as awful a person Jeff Sessions was, he was no Matt Gaetz. It's just worse. It's just a noticeable step down for everyone Trump has in this administration. And it's like a Richie Rich thing. Like if Richie Rich took control of the country and just nominated all the crazy people he wanted, and we got to live with it. It hasn't even started yet, folks. It hasn't even started. There's still months to go. Go ahead, Cincy Brett.
No, that's what I've been thinking this entire time. Honestly, and I'm not trying to bring down the room or depress anyone, but the only hope
it's not possible, Brando. My smile is a clown smile. Me too. Is just suffering behind these eyes.
And at this point, honestly, guys, I've laughed out loud at things that people have said, and it's not because I thought it was funny. It's just because it's the only reaction I have left. left. We were talking, me and Brett Marcellus was talking about the possibility of Hulk Hogan becoming a senator in Florida. And I said to Brett, I said, I can't believe we're here. And Brett was like, don't worry, it'll be Laura Trump. And I laughed out loud, not because it was funny, but just because I was like, damn, I'm at the end of my rope with this. And the only thing right now that I'm sitting here thinking to myself is, okay, well, at least we still got December, at least we still got up till January 20th before the, I mean, that's literally how I'm sitting here thinking at the moment. And I saw some comments go by of people that are, talking about they've lost all hope, and they look for answers, and they're wanting to find hope. And if I'm being brutally honest with you guys, I don't know that I have the answers. I really don't. I'm here talking it out with you guys. I want to hear your ideas. I want to hear what you've got on your mind. But as far as the audience goes, I don't know that I have the answers for you. I'm still trying to pick up the pieces and figure it out and sort it out in my brain that this is really happening and that it's not some sort of weird dream, because I have some really funny dreams, man. And sometimes I'll wake up and tell my family about them, and they'll roll laughing at the stuff I'll say. You won't believe what I dreamed last night. And sometimes I say to myself, somebody please wake me up and let me say, hey, I had a dream that I was talking with TJ and John, and we were talking about RFK Jr. becoming the, I wish we were there, but we're not. So I honestly, what do you guys think as far as when people says, I've lost all hope? What do we say to them?
So we're having this conversation in the Left Wing Creator Network group chat with all of the different guests from the left wing here. What we talk about, and some people were kind of expressing what you are, where it's just so negative, so doomerist that like, what are we even going to do? And I'm going to be honest with the audience here. It's very possible that all of the worst things that you can think of are going to happen. It is definitely a possibility, and I really hope that we don't go down that particular road, but it's possible. But the way that I see it, if you ever watched House with Hugh Laurie,
I love that show.
Love that show. One of my favorites of all time.
Me too.
But he would always say, it's never lupus. And the reason he said that is because if it was lupus, well, there was nothing he could do about it. So there's no point in even considering the possibility. Just because it could happen doesn't mean it's necessarily constructive to give into that idea. And that's what I've been telling people, is that we have to assume that there is a victory condition. We can spend hours of our time just prophesizing about all of the terrible things that are going to happen. We can predict that he's going to control the military and beat down protest and deport us from the country, like he has said in the literal fucking party line, that the party platform that he ran on. We can sit here and talk for hours about how fucked we are if that happens, but it's not constructive, because if it happens, we're fucked. And so what we can do is focus on the things that can give us hope, that can get us through this. Because best case scenario, he fucks up enough in the next 2 years to have a giant blue wave in the midterms. He loses control of Congress, and we can stall out the next 2 years. And we just have to worry about 2 very bad years. And that's it. That's the hope, guys. And that sucks. I don't want to go through 2 very bad years. But that is probably, honestly, the most likely scenario. I don't know if you guys agree with me on that, but just due to Trump's own incompetence and entrenched corporate power not wanting him to totally wreck the economy, I do think that we can more or less stall for 2 years before he loses Congress. I don't know. TJ, what do you think?
Well, I've seen a lot of this sentiment going around, and John and I did an episode with All About Liz last week, I think, and we were talking about this, and I was mentioning how I've seen this before in elections, where like the most prominent one I can think of is in 2012, when Mitt Romney lost to Barack Obama. The Republicans all thought they were going to win. They were jazzed. They thought that the polls were, it's actually weird how similar it was. Yeah, the polls say this, but we don't really buy that. Our internals are saying something else. Looking at all this data, we're thinking it's exactly the same as what happened this time, and they got their shit rocked. And the Republicans literally came out and stated, we're doing a party autopsy. They called it that. And they said, we're going to reevaluate everything we've ever done. We're going to reach out more to Hispanic voters. We're going to realign the thinking of the Republican Party. And I think, since Brandon, you brought this up, that that they ended up going a lot more racist, but they really did jettison the old Republican Party. The old Republican Party of Mitt Romney and John McCain is dead. It is gone. And they went into Trumpism, something a lot worse, and it worked for them. Which is like a lesson, by the way, to the Democrats, because that's really what this is going to rely a lot upon, is that trying to just be as much like a standard 1980s television politician is not going to get anywhere. And my concern is that as bad as Donald Trump is sure to fuck it up, one thing that I learned, that I learned the hard way this last year or so, is what we were all doing. I'm guilty of this as well, is pushing out all the content of, wow, look how bad Donald Trump is. Look how awful, look how stupid he is. Look how unserious he is. Look how, and not just the standard, he's a threat to democracy stuff, and we know that, but just this, like, he is like a base human being that's like has a lizard brain and all the stuff he wants to do. And it didn't matter. It didn't matter. The same people who voted for him back then are still voting for him now, which is why I'm so confident that's not going to change whenever the Republicans run someone. Now, it probably won't be Trump again. I mean, constitutionally it can't, but that's never stopped him before. But the Trump fans are going to be the Trump fans. But unless the Democrats can actually put forward a message to motivate those other people, we're going to have the same situation, because Republicans are bad, and they certainly are, is clearly not enough.
Yeah, and I read a really good article on Midas Touch Network from Ron Filipkowski that goes with what you're saying here. He was talking about our messaging versus theirs, and he made a really good point, and it's something I really didn't think of. And like you said, we can sit here and we can bring the receipts all day long on Trump and talk about what a bad person he is. Ever since the election, I've not rolled one clip of Trump in any of my videos, because I'm like, at this point, what's the point? But we know what kind of person he is, and the other side don't care. But Ron brought across a great point, and that is that every week somewhere in America there is an event, like take Turning Point USA, you get Charlie Kirk. Everywhere in America there is an event where you have podcasters, you have social media influencers, you have journalists, you have politicians, and they're gathered there having they're having a meeting, and they're talking to their audience. They're engaging with that audience. They're organizing that audience. They're taking questions from that audience. And we can sit back and make fun of them all day and say, well, they're a bunch of conspiracy theorists, a bunch of racists, a bunch of all of these things. But they went out there and they did it. They got together. On the other hand, it's hard to get people on our side of the aisle to do things in groups, because we're not necessarily group-minded people. We're more individual-minded people. But going forward, could it be possible that we had events where you had people on our side of the aisle with our way of thinking? You had the journalists and the podcasters and the influencers with some politicians on in the mix, and then some headliners. We have to do something different, because what's happening is we come in at the last few weeks right before an election with a politician, and we go and we're like, hey, everybody, here we are. We're ready to have this election. You know what I mean? But they've spent all this time on the ground. Every time they get in front of a microphone, they're there. They're talking. And yeah, they're wrong. I'll give it to you all day. Yeah, their ideas are wrong. Their ideas are outdated. Their ideas are racist. Their ideas are all of those things. But they're still out there engaging their people, whereas we kind of come in at the last minute and go, hey, here we are. And I go back to this point. Have you ever had like someone talking about you and just saying like ridiculous over the top stuff, and you ignored it just because you're like, that's stupid, I would never do that? Well, if you sit back and let people say stuff about you enough and you never defend yourself, then people think that's what you are. So you've had all this time of them out there building this straw man of us and telling everyone that this is who we are. And we're on social media every day. Guys like us, we've built platforms just from our lawn chairs, speaking this stuff. But the DNC doesn't necessarily turn over the microphone to people like us. It's like they bring out that computerized politician at the last minute and go, here you guys go. And I just think that as we go forward, we're going to have to find ways to connect with the audience, and also to make the establishment realize that, hey, you're going to have to start listening to the people, because I really believe we had the better message. We had the better ideas. We had the better policies, but they got out there on the ground week after week and just went for it. And yeah, it was bullshit and lies every step of the way and conspiracy theories, but they doubled down on it and got over the finish line. So I think we just need to, to think about ways we can go about it in the future to combat that type of campaign.
One of our biggest advantages, Brando, is that the other side is saying, oh, this was a landslide victory. We have a mandate to rule, when that was not the actual case. This was decided, again, like most elections have been in my lifetime, by a handful of people deciding to go out to vote or deciding not to vote.
Yeah.
And the margin of victory is not actually that large for the other side. And assuming that they don't consolidate power beyond the levers of democracy, which, again, is unfortunately an assumption that we have to live with, we can still win this. I'm seeing the right lessons be learned, at least by some people who are Democratic establishment mainstays. And in the same way, and I said this before on the show, when Joe Biden went up on that debate stage and just nosedived, we had been saying for over a year at that point, Joe Biden shouldn't be running in this race. It turns out it was too late for him, for us at that point, I think, for him to step down. But after that debate, I remember Tapper on CNN was like, hey, guys, I think he might need to step down. And when I saw that, it was like fucking like Pulp Fiction, adrenaline into my heart. Like, I was like, holy shit, there's momentum here. There's leverage. There's blood in the water. Mm-hmm. And what we saw is Joe Biden stepped down. Took his good old ass time doing it, but he did. And I see that same blood in the water right now in the Democratic Party. I saw fucking, what's his face? Carville today.
James Carville.
Yo, guys, Bernie Sanders is kind of right. We need to lean into this economic populism. Mm-hmm. James Carville, as much as a crazy motherfucker as he is, he does have strings to pull in the Democratic Party. There is a chance to tear down the establishment DNC that we have been cursed with for my entire adult fucking life and build something new from it, in the same way TJ said that the Republicans tore down the old establishment of the GOP and out arose Trumpism. Well, here's the nice thing. If a populist uprising happens in the DNC, the difference between our populist policy and Trump's populist policy is that ours fucking works. Mm-hmm. And you won't have a situation where the people are constantly had to be fed lies. We can feed them the truth. And as much as it takes more effort to refute bullshit than it is to make it, it also takes more effort to propagandize what the opposite of what people see in front of them than it does to propagandize things that confirm the things that they are seeing in their day-to-day lives. And again, very silver linings here, very hopium, but I think that's what we need. And again, those are our victory conditions. That's our pathway to victory. And I do think that we can do that. And part of it is us people coming together and creating that institution.
That's what I was saying.
Organization on the left. And it's not just us, because honestly, I'm never going to break through with my content to the kinds of people, most of the people who voted for Trump. But what we can do is we can break through to Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan voted for fucking Bernie Sanders.
He did.
Joe Rogan doesn't actually like Trump. If you can flip the Joe Rogans of the world onto a Bernie populist economic policy bandwagon, suddenly a lot of those low information voters that voted for Trump, we like to think that like they're just Trump to the death. They're not. There's like a 33% of them that are, and they'll never change. But a lot of them just kind of go the way the wind blows. And if we get those, centrist is not the right word, but those not MAGA to the death voices that influence people onto our side by a coordinated effort to get on their platforms, get in front of their people and speak to them. And it's going to take organization from the DNC and the left in general.
Yeah.
But it can happen. I don't know. TJ, am I just fucking high on the hopium here?
Yes. No, but no. No, so
there we go. That's our show, guys. Thank you very much.
That's what we're here for. Abandon all hope, ye winter here. This is no. So what I wanted to talk about with this is I think you guys are right. And I wanted to add another dimension to this. But I first want to talk about James Carville. Now, for all of you out there south of 60 years old, you probably may not know who James Carville is, but he was a high-level Democratic operative during the Clinton era. And he apparently still thinks it is the Clinton era. All of his advice goes back to the same things he would have told William Jefferson Clinton in 1991, that what the American people really want is a Southern conservative Democrat. And look, sure, maybe that had been true in 1991, but also, I like when James Carville, people like that come around like, oh, I've been wrong about everything for 35 years, but now I'm ready to be. It's like when like the Pope said that, actually Jewish people aren't responsible for the death of Christ. Sorry for 2,000 years of lies, but I'm ready to be infallible now. It's like, but what Carville is missing with Bill Clinton is why this shit worked for Clinton. It's not just because America was more conservative back then and they were looking for a cool person with a conservative message. It's the cool person that matters. This is something that is just, look, we've all known this. We've known this for a long time, but it's hard for us to accept because we do think more highly of people than we probably should, or more highly of their engagement than we probably should. And I wanted to share this real quick. I'm sure you guys have heard this watching, but it's not going to be news. But basically, the more you watch and followed news and the more you knew about politics, the less likely you were to vote for Donald Trump, or the more likely you were to vote for Kamala Harris. And of course, there was an inverse relationship with Trump, that if you, like on the very bottom there, they paid no attention at all to politics or news, 51% of them would have voted for Trump automatically. It's like, these folks aren't voting for Trump because Trump has this great vision he wants to share with people. It's because he's fun. It's because they find him to be interesting and charismatic. And this actually goes, I agree with what Tennessee Brando said about how it would be great if we had more left of center Turning Point USA events or CPAC events or something. But if you ever watch those things, a lot of it is just, like you said, conspiracy theories and grifting nonsense. If you guys ever watch a right-wing broadcast or a right-wing content creator, they're going to be, every other commercial break, they're going to be selling you gold bars. They're going to be selling you prepper gear. They're going to be selling you dick pills. They're going to be selling you colloidal silver, like just a bunch of bullshit to rip you off. But that stuff is kind of fun.
Sells hamburgers. That's the only thing.
Always sell them Scott's Hamburgers in Big Speeds, Oklahoma. Stop by Scott's Hamburgers. Pick yourself up a double. It's good. Support Scott's Hamburgers in Big Speeds, Oklahoma. But no, it's fun. Like that's really what it comes down to. And I hate to say it, that politics is just popularity contest. And you see Trumpers out there. We can make fun of them for being idiots, morons with fridge temperature IQs, which is true, but they are having the fucking time of their lives out there. Yeah. They're walking around in the giant MAGA hats. They got the American flags. They're with their buddies. They're drinking beer. Now, we don't need to replicate all the racist bigotry and nonsense, but we need to replicate the fun. A lot of liberals and leftists, especially leftists, are not fun. They are not fun to be around. They aren't. Like we're judgmental, we're rude, we're arrogant. And yes, like some leftists are smarter than everyone, like myself. But I'm saying you got to dial it down a bit if you want people to like you. What do you guys think?
You're right. No, you're spot on, man. And I think that's what I was going to when I was talking about us having events and stuff like that. We don't need to dial in the rhetoric they dial in. We wouldn't be out there trying to sell dick pills and all those things. We wouldn't be going for that. But we need to find a way to communicate with people to where we're more, we're personable and we can get out there and get with people and help them understand that we're really on their side. Because like I said, for far too long, they built up the straw man argument. I did make a note here. I wanted to point this out. Someone commented earlier that they can't see your name, like it's like cut off. So it's power is taken, not given. TJ's name. And I saw someone say that, and John's is John
Counterpoint
Cooper
Politics.
Okay, cool. Because someone asked, I just wanted to circle back to that. But yeah, and also I got to be honest with you guys. I'm not going to lie. Back when I was a teenager in the 90s, James Carville was someone I considered a hero back then. Like, I listened to him and back then he was spot on. And then he kind of disappeared for a while. I didn't see him. And then when he came back, he had a lot of the same talking points. Like you said, he thinks it's 1993 all over again. But if we could ever channel that, if we could ever have someone on our side that could channel what they channeled all those years ago, then we might be able to have a fighting chance. And if we organize better and get out there and meet people, and also, if we could, have places where, we could meet, whether it be live streams or live events or whatever, and we discuss ideas, and we don't crucify each other for disagreeing with one another, because that's one thing that they've pointed at the left for so long is, well, you can't disagree with the leftists, they'll come down on your head. So we have to find a way to let them know that, we can disagree about things. The three of us may all three have a completely different opinion about something. And I think that works to our strength. And sometimes it works against us in elections, because it's harder to get us together to do things in groups. But if we can find ways to do that, I think we would be better off.
I just want to point out the best idea we've seen on the stream so far. TJ's cat to replace Marjorie Taylor Greene. Now, Wolfie has a brain the size of a walnut. I will, grant that exception. But his heart is definitely bigger than Marjorie Taylor Greene. So I will definitely, he will get the edge there. So I like where we're coming from here. Yeah.
TJ, I want to say, so like last week I said on this show, I was like, guys, all of the people who just gave millions and millions of dollars to the Kamala campaign that she blew, I may be biased, but give it to us instead. And it was funny. It was funny. It's inherently funny, but it is also true that like it doesn't have to be us, but like it should be people like us that. But I'm going to kind of do that again here. These are the people on the left that you're looking at right now, the type of people on the left that need to rise to prominence more, because not to speak ill of the types of people that become associated with the left, but we are, especially Brando here, is the most fucking manly man with the deep raspy voice, and he's got the bandana, he's got the American flag behind him. Like, that's the kind of person that is cool, that like average dudes can relate to. And we have on our show all the time. We have people on our show all the time. We have disagreements, but we don't get into that fucking leftist catfight arena. And we do go for the humor. We do go for that more laid back style that is actually going to resonate with people. Podcast America, not podcast. God, what?
Pod Save America.
Pod Save America. That is the opposite of cool. That is the least cool thing that we can do, and that is probably the most popular podcast on the left. There needs to be more non-traditional leftist voices, and there's a fucking lot of us. There are a lot of us. We have not been able to garner that institutional support, and I think that our voices are drowned out because of that. And again, I'd love for it to be specifically us, but it doesn't have to be specifically us. But the powers that be in left-wing politics need to make a more concerted effort of elevating the voices of reasonable economic populists that don't get into the fucking dogfight, slit each other's throat ecosystem that has thrived on the left. And the reason it has thrived that way, and I truly believe this, is not because that's how most leftists feel. It's because that is the economic structures in place for left-wing content creators. We don't have the same sort of funding that Ben Shapiro does. We just don't have access to that. And the only way that we can get money to make this a living, and I don't know, I haven't fucking come close to that yet, but like the only way that we have access to that is by just peddling to the masses and getting those Patreon subscriptions. And you know what they want to see is violence. Like they want to see Godzilla fight. And so it creates this adversarial relationship, which I don't think actually exists. Brando, you said that the left is a little more individually oriented. I actually completely disagree with that. I think that our philosophical approach in general is much more community oriented. It is like, just if you think about our policy, about our positions, we are much more communally oriented. It's just that there's more communities in our tent, and they do fight between each other more. But I do think that that is a more of a product of the incentive structure than it is anything else. If we can get organization around these groups, we'll stop fighting. I said liberals are like, oh, the leftists hate us. Like, I will stop hating you the moment you stop fucking beating us to the ground every time we try and talk. And we will fight you with the other people, but you always side with them for some reason.
Yeah, and that's a great point, and I do agree with you on that. I think what I was referring to is that it's easy. I've noticed one thing on the left that's easy to happen is, you know, you've got people on our side. I go back to 2016 that, you know, and rightfully so, got upset over Bernie Sanders, but then they went and voted third party or they stayed home. And that's what I was referring to when I said that, you know, we're the type that's it's a little bit harder sometimes to get us together because sometimes I've had friends, I've had close friends that's done it, that's came back later and said they regretted doing it, but they was like, you know what, screw it. I'm staying home on election day because I didn't get my way on this one issue, or I disagreed on this one issue. And that's really what I was referring to. But no, I do agree with what you just said.
The left infighting with each other, it's just like, that is kind of the hobby horse of John and I, is that like when I first started coming on the show, I remember you guys saying that you wanted a place where people from the left wing, no matter what part of the spectrum they were on, could come together, discuss their ideas. They could disagree or agree and kind of move on from there. And we have a hard time doing that. We have a hard time doing that. Apparently, it's or at least we're not as easily herd mentality when it comes to this and goal oriented, I guess, is the right. That's one thing I always say about right wingers is that, hey, you can disparage them all you want, but they have put in 60 years of work. They saw the goal. Yeah. They wanted to overturn Roe v. Wade. They wanted to roll back the Voting Rights Act. They had all these plans that they wanted. They wanted to overturn like parts of the Civil Rights Act, and they've accomplished their goal. They've got it done. And they were willing, you know what they were willing to do as well? They were willing to do the stuff that wasn't sexy. That's something that I've noticed too on the left. And the easy example of this is like whether you think Jill Stein's a grifter or not, she is indicative of the thought processes of a lot of people on the left, is that we look at the big fish. We look at who's going to be the president, who's winning in the Senate, who's winning in the House. I don't see a lot of left-wing conversations about running for school board or running for mayor or stuff like that. I don't see it. We have this revolutionary mindset. And ironically, having that kind of mindset of only on the big fish makes you miss all the little fish. And this is what happened with the Republicans. Point. Yeah, the Republicans, we've talked about it many times, like ever since the moral majority and the Reagan Revolution and everything, they have flooded the political system with these cultists. And it didn't take long. It only took like 20 years before you saw the cultists like Mike Huckabee, like Rick Santorum, like Michelle Bachmann rise into power, Sarah Palin. And now, and now these folks would have been unthinkable in the Reagan days or the George Bush Senior days. And now that's your standard Republican. Like that is the Republican Party. So it's hard for us to imagine that 40 years from now, your standard Democrat could look like Bernie Sanders. It's possible, but we've got to put in the work for it to happen. We have to. It would be great to have help. I like Dennis Brand, we were talking about building the network and everything. I was going to say, this is John Cooper's idea right here of getting the Mark Cubans or whatever to shell out a bunch of cash and like, let's go, let's get this going. But I mean, that's part of it too. But it does go down to being likable and being willing to do the dirty work. Like sitting around and reading what Trotsky wrote down is great. I'm glad you feel good about yourself. But if you're not out there in your community, if you're not talking to your neighbors, I know you're not. Exactly. I know you guys aren't. I know you guys don't know the name of the people who live next door to you. You don't. We all talk about community and society, and no one knows who's on their street. Start there. Like to have a conversation with an actual human being, and then we can move on from there. That's how I see it.
No, you're absolutely right, man. There's so many. I mean, we're all guilty of that. Of not knowing who lives next door. As you were saying that, I was thinking about a comedian I heard one time that was talking about. He said, people will complain about who speaks the language. He said, well, he's like, you don't even know what your neighbor has to say. You don't. So we do. We have to start. And I saw someone say that we have to start local. We have to start with the small. And like that was a great point about always looking to the big fish. We have to look at everybody. We have to start small and build up. And because we used to be the side that resonated with the working class, and sadly we lost that to the grifters and the con men. And I sat back so many times and I tried to point out to people in my part of the world, hey, you're being used, you're being con, you're being grifted. But like we talked about when you was on my show, TJ, whether you love Donald Trump or hate him is irrelevant. he spoke a language that resonated with the dude on the loading dock. You know what I mean? And we could sit here all day long and say it was stupid and say it was, we could call it everything that it truly is. But he was able to connect with those kind of people, and we have to figure out ways to connect to where they understand that we're not necessarily trying to make fun of them, or we're not trying to punch down at them, but we're trying to wake them up to what's actually going on around them, and who's actually out to get them at the end of the day.
It is actually shocking how actually easy it is to get a lot of people to change their minds if they hear the right words in the right tone from the right person. And I always say with my content that I make, don't think I'll convince anyone who watches my video that they are wrong. There's no way. And so the mindset that I have with the videos that I make is to give people the language, vocabulary, and logical structures they need to convince people in their own lives that they are wrong. Because that's where it's going to happen. There's going to be a lot of uncles that aren't invited to Thanksgiving dinner this year. But that is the exact opposite mindset of what it actually takes to win. And it sucks. I understand. It shouldn't have to fall on the people who are oppressed to explain to their oppressors why they shouldn't oppress them. It really fucking sucks. And I say this as someone who is not one of the oppressed. So, like, if you are in danger talking to people about this because of who you are, great, don't do it. But for the rest of us who feel like we're not putting ourselves in danger and it just might give us a little social awkwardness, yeah, go out and have those conversations with your neighbor. It's the exact opposite of what the left in general has gone by for the past decade, where we've had this whole movement of, hey, we need to avoid platforming these voices. I remember when Donald Trump was taken off of Twitter, and I was like, this is a terrible fucking idea, because they're just going to pull themselves further into their own echo chambers where they're less and less exposed to our ideas. We saw this with the whole, and I don't think Kamala would have won if she went on Rogan, but I think that the philosophy that caused her to not go on Rogan, and again, this is an unverified report from like internal members, but people have leaked that the reason she didn't go on Rogan is because there were progressive members of her, her campaign that were like, oh, we don't want that to happen. We think Joe Rogan is bad. And we don't want that. That's going to piss off progressives. But first of all, everyone I fucking knew wanted her to go on Rogan. But like, I don't think they understand what progressives are in that context. But like, that's the problem. That is the thing that needs to be rooted out of the Democratic Party. We need to be showing up to these tables. We need to be talking to people. I think that in our minds, it's still 2010, and the media is just going, and by ours, I don't mean ours, I mean the Democratic establishment. The media is just going to get people to believe in the truth or whatever. And that's just not, we have to put in the work. Like, we've lost the upper hand when it comes to the communication networks. You can't just rely on doing good things and having that communicated to people. We need to put in the work to make people understand.
You're right, and I think when she didn't go on Rogan, I saw a video he made where the way he framed it, didn't make it look good and made it look worse to people, because he was like, well, I tried to get her on, I wanted her on, but she had these rules in place that she wanted these things said, or she wanted me to come to her, and she wanted all these people to be sitting around, and I just wanted to have, he said, I just wanted to have a one-on-one conversation with her like a normal person. Now I think she would have did good on there. Honestly, like TJ said earlier, Joe Rogan voted for Bernie. So I think if she could have got her points across to him, I think she would have held her own and did great. I'm not saying that she couldn't have held her own or did good on the show, but by not going on, she gave them the ammunition to then say, well, we tried to sit down and talk with her like a normal person, and she wouldn't do it. You know what I'm saying? So it was one of those things that I had mixed reactions about it. I was kind of worried in one way that Joe may purposely go out of his way to sabotage her. In one sense, I kind of did have that thought process, but by the same time, he goes whichever way the wind's blowing. If you really watch one show to the next, I've seen him have Bernie Sanders, then I've seen him have Andrew Yang, then I've seen him have Tim Pool, and he just goes wherever the guest is going. He really does. So I think that, and I'm not saying that her going on there would have won it for either, but I'm saying it definitely fed into their narrative of, we can't talk to these people.
Yeah, that's exactly what John and I said, that we're under no illusions that the election hinged on her going to Joe Rogan's show a week or two before the election. It didn't, but it was indicative of the mindset that had permeated. Which is weird. It's like, why didn't want to go on Joe Rogan because the progressives don't like Joe Rogan, but she went on Fox News, and that's what got me too. Is that Joe Rogan is not an antagonistic interviewer. In fact, I'm having a hard time thinking of an example of Joe Rogan just turning the screws on some lefty, because he's had him on the show. I can't think of it. I have seen him do it, but I have seen him do it against like Steven Crowder or Candace Owens. Like I've seen, or Dave Rubin, saying that regulations are necessary so builders don't have houses with power lines next to water lines. Like he roasted Dave Rubin and that stuff. And once again, Joe Rogan is not some wild-eyed lefty or anything. So I think that she could have done herself a favor doing something like that. But you had mentioned how the media sphere has circled around this, and that'll pivot to our next topic. But real quick, Tennessee Brando, you've only been a couple of times, so I'm not sure if you know this, but we have this thing in the show every now and then. We just pick out a random comment, and so I'm just gonna shot in the dark, pick out a comment. It's like, I love TJ's shirt. What are the odds? Holy shit, that is crazy.
That was the random comment.
Listen. Like, this is our tradition. We pick a random comment, and they said they love the shirt, so I appreciate it. ARG Productions. This is a band called Death. If you guys haven't watched the documentary, go out and do that. But let's move on to Elon Musk. We're talking about people who want to be liked. My God! Like Elon Musk, he's both our topics. Actually, we're going to talk about Elon Musk and his power. That he's like, honestly, Elon Musk is essentially a co-president of the United States at the moment, at least. He owns President Trump right now. And he funded the campaign. He owns Twitter, or X, which is now, honestly, one of the major reasons that Trump won. I am convinced that Elon Musk propaganda campaign of turning X into a Nazi post-farming platform only helped. And once again, another thing Elon Musk just stumbled into, it's like God has blessed Elon Musk. We have to accept this right now, that this is what's going on here, because he acts like buying Twitter was this exercise in promoting free speech and this noble thing. No, he did it as a joke, and he was forced into buying it. And he's been hemorrhaging cash day after day, but it got the job done. And now it's probably the best thing that's ever happened to him, because you've seen that his predictions are nonsense and the fraud he probably be facing. But we're going to talk about the more fun part here. Well, the more dire part here, the Department of Government Efficiency. And Elon Musk had been talking about this, I don't know, ever since he announced that he was going to be promoting the Trump campaign. And of course, everyone noticed that it was a acronym that spelled Doge, because Elon Musk is obsessed with the older the meme, the better. He just loves that. And so we'll go to you, John, first. What do you think about Vivek and Elon heading the unofficial Department of Government Efficiency?
Okay, so here's the thing, TJ. I've been cooking this for a little bit. I think they're being put at the kids' table. I think, like what you just said, I kind of agree. It's like, Elon kind of lucked into this like avenue for himself of like getting out, or not getting out of buying Twitter, but at least like having it not completely ruin him. But I don't think this thing is real in any way, shape, or form. I think it's about it. Like, remember fucking Space Force? I think it's about as real as Space Force. And in fact, actually, I think Space Force is far more real.
Yeah, Space Force is real. I mean, I
think Trump was like, "Yo, Elon, thank you very much for setting the Twitter algorithms to promote me and nothing else." And by the way, do you guys still use Twitter?
Yeah.
So I have noticed I'm starting to see a lot of the left-wing voices I used to see in my For You feed. And all of the right-wing, not all of them, but a lot of the right-wing voices are gone. I don't know. Might be a coincidence. Could be confirmation bias. I don't think it is. But there's no real, it's just imaginary still. Like, there's no real power in this. And even like Donald Trump has said, like, this is from outside the government. Like, I think this is just a little playpen to put Vivek and Elon and reward them for their loyalty that isn't really going to do anything at all. And that is most of Elon's companies, but like to an even greater extent. I at first I was like worried that they're going to fucking gut it and do everything, and we're going to get to the Vivek side of it later. Because I do want to talk about the Vivek side of it, but I really do think this is hey buddy, When I was like a teenager, I had a little cousin, and like we'd have to watch him. So me and my buddy would play Call of Duties, and we'd give him a controller that wasn't plugged in and tell him that he was playing. I think that's what Trump did to Elon Musk here. But I don't know. What do you think, Brenda?
That's actually a really good analogy, and I never thought of it that way, but it really is. Yeah, I mean, the first thought that went through my head was, okay, the president-elect doesn't have the power to create a new department. Neither does the president himself. You know, so it's like, why? But people in MAGA are excited about that. They're like, oh, here comes Elon and Vivek in to save the day, and we don't even know what it means. You know, we don't fully understand what it means. But I'm curious to see what happens going forward with Elon and Trump, because their egos are so huge. They're both like, I don't know. That's one of those things where I don't know how long that little love affair is going to last, because they're both so egotistical and both so power hungry. And I think Elon does feel like that he's bought this thing, and it's his. He's in the family portraits, and all stuff. But I don't know. Again, I said this earlier in the show. I don't know how this is going to be once it does start playing out, how long it's going to be before they turn on one another. Because there was a time that Elon didn't seem too fond of Trump. And then, now suddenly he is. So how long will the honeymoon last?
So go ahead, TJ. I hadn't thought about that too much, and my brain is just flying right now with
possibilities. No, go for it. I'm looking for something. Yeah, go for it.
Well, because you're totally right, Brando. Vivek has already, he's also a billionaire. He also obviously has an ego, but we've seen Vivek is able to just fucking eat shit like no one's ever seen before. He will sit there and have people tell him to his face that they don't think he should be president because he's Indian. And he's just going to eat that fucking shit. And he has modeled himself after Trump with the explicit intent of worming his way into the government.
Yeah.
Elon is not like that. Elon views himself as the center of the universe. He is attached to Trump because Trump is giving him what he wants right now. And honestly, Elon was floundering a bit, and he needs to continue to build on this house of cards. It's just his entire life is a giant shell game. But it's gonna get to the point where Godzilla fights Mechagodzilla here. Trump's gonna win, which is gonna be really funny. But it's going to go really poorly for Elon, and that is going to hurt Trump, because the Elon fanboy and the Trump fanboy are two different audiences, and it's going to happen. You're totally right. Those two egos cannot coexist for long enough. Eventually, Elon's going to figure out that the controller ain't plugged in, and he's going to be pissed about it.
The thing with Elon and Trump is, you're right, that the egos are going to come to a head, but Trump does have the actual power, because John was mentioning, by the way, Tennessee Brando, you were laughing at John's controller joke. There's a reason I wasn't laughing, because I wrote down right here, kids controller. I was right about to say the same thing. So John swooped in and stole the thunder. I was like, oh, this is like giving your little brother the controller that doesn't work. And there are downsides to having the same sense of humor. So you got to get to the joke real quick before the other one does. But yeah, this is this thing with Elon. Trump is going to win because he has the actual power. And like John, we were talking about, this is put him at the kids' table. That's a good point, because what Trump has made very clear, I mean, they haven't lied about this. They said that this isn't an official department. This isn't an actual cabinet position. We're not going to create it. This is just an advisory role that Elon Musk is going to come up and say, we need to slash, what did he say, a third of the federal budget somehow. A third of the federal budget
happen.
Can't happen. Yeah, cannot happen. Vivek Ramaswamy wants to fire everyone with a social security number that ends in an odd number. Not insane propositions, even for a Trump administration. So I think it's going to be a way for Republicans, they can release statements and say the Department of Government Efficiency says that we should fire everyone who has a grandparent who wasn't born in the United States of America or something, and just kind of spread the propaganda that way. It's not going to happen, because they care about the morality of it, but the government does have to work somewhat in order for them to retain power. So it's just, I am interested to see what the full-time goal is, because if Elon Musk is going to realize this. He's like, oh, I don't have really any real influence, and then he's going to throw a fit. But once again, Trump is the person who's actually president of the United States and has some sort of power and authority. And that's why I wanted to bring up, this is a famous one. I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen this, but when you, Brandon, you mentioned that Trump and Elon didn't always get along. This is a tweet that Donald Trump made a few years ago. Yeah, when Elon Musk came to the White House asking me for help on all of his many subsidized projects, whether it's electric cars that don't drive long enough, driverless cars that crash, or rocket ships to nowhere, without which subsidies he'd be worthless, and telling me how he was a big Trump fan and a Republican, I could have said, drop to your knees and beg, and he would have done it. Listen, most true statement Trump has ever made. The fact that there are so many people who worship at the altar of Elon Musk and say that he's some sort of super genius. Elon Musk would be nowhere without, one, being born rich, two, dumb fucking luck with happening to invest with the PayPal folks, investing with the Tesla folks. He's never invented anything. And all the money he gets is from government subsidies, whether it be for Tesla, whether it be for SpaceX. And you guys saw how the rocket that they landed after it took off and make it reusable and stuff. Yeah, look, that's a good accomplishment. I'm not a hater. I can give it that. If you look at Elon's timeline from when he first got that money, like 4 years ago, that stage of the operation, 3 years behind. It is 3 years. That is stage one. And he just now finished it. Billions of dollars to be years behind schedule, saying that we would be on Mars by 2030 or something like that. He's just a con man. And Trump winning bothers me, but Elon Musk getting away with it again bothers me more. It really does. It bothers me a lot more.
Yeah.
So Elon Musk, that's the thing. Like, he's not long for this world.
He can't be.
And I don't mean that like he's going to die, but he's going to stop being Elon Musk, because there are a lot of billionaires in this world that have entrenched power, and even the new money ones, like fucking Facebook guy,
Mark Zuckerberg.
Mark Zuckerberg has had a total brain freeze there. He has entrenched his money and power. He has actual effective influence in this world. Elon Musk runs a Ponzi scheme.
Yes.
A very successful Ponzi scheme, but eventually it falls out from under him. He doesn't act, he's created no value of any sort except for shareholder value. And as soon as he stops doing that, it all falls in on itself. And that's why you've seen Elon become more and more and more outlandish.
Yep.
Because he needs to keep the fucking people flowing in and buying that Tesla stock. That's how he operates. And honestly, if you listen to what like people at SpaceX like say about him, they're like, yeah, no, we just give him shiny toys to like make himself feel good, and we do the actual work in spite of him. Like, that's what the engineers at SpaceX will say. And that's exactly what Doge is. And eventually he's gonna, again, maybe he knows he's playing without the controller. But that's the difference between him and Vivek, I think, is that Vivek completely understands what this is. He completely understands it's a meme, and he understands the power of memes. But he doesn't see this as the ends. He sees this as the means. I think Elon genuinely sees this as the ends, and I think that when he realizes it's not, it's going to crumble down on him. And if he makes the wrong move and he does fight Trump because his ego's too big, the whole house of cards comes tumbling down on him. And I do think we're going to see a massive meltdown of Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Not too far from now, honestly. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I think the wheels will come off sooner than we think. I really do.
Who knows? He's managed to avoid the fucking hammer this entire time. So.
Yeah, he has.
I don't understand. Like, so you're saying, well, John, what are you saying? Like, Vivek, you think that Vivek does realize the absurdity of this. Vivek does realize that this is nonsense. Vivek is playing into it. Like, I
respect Vivek, TJ. He's good for this channel. Not gonna lie, that might bias my opinion, but like, I respect him. I think that he doesn't drink the Kool-Aid. I think he understands exactly what he's doing. I don't know what his goals are, but I think he knows what he's doing. I don't think that he's being led by his own ass here. I think he has intelligence to him that is actually real.
Yeah. So like with Trump, Trump ran for office out of spite because of Barack Obama. He won. I will go to my grave convinced Donald Trump did not expect to win in 2016 like anybody else. Like
I don't think so either.
it was just he probably didn't expect to get out of the primary.
Cars, TJ.
Yeah. It's like if you guys remember in 2016 when Trump ran, all the Republicans that are still prominent now, they all shit on him. They all said that this guy's a cancer. This guy's going to destroy the Republican Party. You can find the quotes. Lindsey Graham, Marco Rubio. He wasn't in office at the time, but J.D. Vance. People were saying that this guy is terrible. He's going to destroy the party. And I said the same thing. I said, oh, man, is this guy like a Democratic psyop to destroy the Republicans? This is pretty great. And
I thought so too.
TJ, I'm not going to lie. I registered as a Republican to vote for him in the primaries. Because
Piper, John.
Big mistake. Not that it would have mattered, but big mistake. I can admit it. But it was, I feel like, still a good process pick at the time.
Yeah, I can see the thinking. And then you have, Elon Musk, who's not running for politics. But you guys remember when he bought Twitter? He announced that I think Twitter should be politically neutral. I'm taking it away from the woke mob, Jack Dorsey, that communist who was propping all that propaganda and everything. What did he say? I am the left end of the right wing and the right end of the left wing and everything. I'm a centrist, straight shooter down the middle. Fast forward a year later, and Kamala Harris is Satan. He's posting and everything like that. So Elon Musk is doing it out of desperation. That Elon Musk, so we guys know what I was talking about, people listening before, is that Elon Musk has spent the last 10 years promising tickets to paradise, saying that we're going to have driverless cars. Like there's going to be, I think just last year, he said that there would be 1 million robo-taxis on the road that people could buy and use at any time. And that we would be going to Mars and we'd be there in a decade or so. Just fairy dust. And that's catching up. Tesla stock went down. It plunged like 60% or something like that last month when he did that We Robot exhibit where he pretended the robots were these AI automatons when they were just dudes controlling them with controllers and stuff. So he knew his time was running out. And he's going to face fraud charges. He is. You can be able to, that's one thing that they will put billionaires in jail for. If you lie to them, lie to rich investors. They did it with that one girl who had the blood machines. They did it with Sam Bankman-Fried. Those people were billionaires. They went to jail. That's pretty much the only way billionaires can. And even when Elon Musk was on Tucker Carlson's show, he said, if Kamala Harris wins, I'm fucked. Now, he pretended it's because Kamala Harris just had it out for him. No, it's because he knew that he had put all his chips in with Donald Trump. And that if he was in the Trump administration, he would have protection as someone who was who had the ear of the president. So Elon Musk is doing it out of desperation. Vivek, though, doesn't have to do this at all. He doesn't. And he does. What do you think his end game is here, Brando? That's a good question, John.
Yeah, I don't know. He's one of those that I don't understand, other than he is just someone who is, I think a lot of them was just trying to save their ass in case Trump was reelected, and now here we are. I mean, I don't understand really. I don't think he's an idiot, in that manner, but he's definitely someone who has played along with this game. And maybe he was just hoping for a position of power. Maybe he was hoping for, a potential run later on down the line. I'm not sure, but I think it's funny to me that these two are the co-chair of this newly created play. It's how are they even going to work together? I don't know. I don't understand how they're even going to work together.
So when Donald Trump became president, my first reaction was shock and how could this happen? What's going to happen? This is crazy. There's a horse in the hospital, right? But one thing that I did quickly realize is that if Donald Trump could become president, anyone could become president.
Oh yeah,
it broke a glass ceiling that it didn't. People didn't understand that could be used for good. But now that glass ceiling is broken, my thought was, hell, if you get the right person in the right position, they can become president. And honestly, I think Vivek just has the same fucking idea. I think Vivek, if you look at Vivek's rock, he was nothing. 2 years ago. I mean, he was a billionaire. Don't get me wrong. But he was not part of national discourse at all. And suddenly he's on billboards with the president of the United States. And isn't very hard to see a clear pathway that he can pursue to become the most powerful man in the world. What he wants to do with that power, I do not know, but I bet my bottom dollar that his end goal is the Oval Office. And he sees that he can manipulate the masses in the same way Trump did, except Trump manipulates himself and Vivek doesn't. And that is, I think, his entire ethos. I think that's what he is attempting to do. Will he be successful? I don't fucking know. But if I were to bet, I would say that he wants to just become the most powerful man in the world. And he's going to do it in the, like in like Survivor, when like the fucking like maniacal guy like that made all the deals and the backstabs, he would end up losing to the person who just like everyone liked. I think that's kind of Vivek's pathway here. Like he's just like, yeah, I'm going to be liked by as many people as possible. I'm going to play the meme game, and I'm going to put myself in a position to win at the end of the day. Even if I have to eat shit constantly for years, as he's obviously able to do, I think that's his goal. I don't know. I could be wrong, but that's why I say it's going to blow up for Elon. It's not going to blow up for Vivek because this is just another step on the cobblestone path.
All right, that's good stuff. John, I want to bring up Tennessee Brando has to step away for a bit, so I'm going to take him down here.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate you joining, man, as always. Thank you so much. Good
Awesome.
luck. All right.
Are you leaving the show or are you coming back?
I can come back.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay.
Yeah,
no problem.
All right. So, you had to step away for a second right there. While we're waiting for you to get back, I wanted to something I didn't mention with RFK Jr. was how much into conspiracies he is. And I wanted to pull up this video that when did he release this a while ago? This is about COVID, of course, the conspiracies. You got to be careful with COVID conspiracies on YouTube because YouTube may ban you. I had to have the ones with vaccine information, but I've shared this one plenty of times, so it's going to be fine. But this is RFK Jr. saying that he believed COVID was genetically engineered to affect certain races more than others.
We don't know.
I want to pause it right there because I can't listen to RFK's voice anymore. Look at the guy behind him. Look at the guy's face.
So TJ, I read the transcript of this. I hadn't actually watched the video. Both the guy behind him and the guy in like the foreground of the camera shot are just like, God, I can't believe I have to listen to this fucking guy. This is the guy we all have to listen to. Like we've all been in that room, whether it be like at work or whatever, when like the fucking dumbass CEO is talking and you just have to sit there and be like, mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no. John Freeze. Look at this. We're one by one. We're losing, folks. You guys don't even know who we are. But for those of you who didn't catch that, oh, there he is. John's back. All right, cool. Go ahead, John. What were you saying?
Am I back? Yeah, I just glitched out there. What was I saying, TJ, before I went out?
You were saying everyone's been in a room where like the CEO is droning on about something ridiculous.
And that's exactly what their faces were. I instantly recognized it as soon as I saw it. And I like, this is one of the things that surprised me. Like, working class people, whatever. Everyone's been in that room. Everyone has been in a room where the powerful guy is talking utter bullshit and they recognize the faces of everyone else in the room. I just don't understand how people watch that clip and don't instantly recognize it in the same way I did.
Yeah, I wanted to. Oh, we got Tennessee Brando back here. Awesome. Can you hear us, Brandon?
Yep.
Yeah, you just missed the clip we played. We were pulling up RFK Jr. and he was talking about, I don't know if you saw the clip. So actually, we should have done this for people watching because we're used to hearing RFK Jr.'s voice and you guys may not be if you're not deep into politics like we are. It's so grating. But he was saying that COVID-19.
You're about very used to it. All of America is about.
Oh my God, aren't you? Yeah. You're going to, he was saying that COVID-19 was genetically engineered to not infect Chinese people and Jewish people is what he was saying. Completely insane, like absolutely bonkers. And the people at the table knew it. But, he's a Kennedy. And so we got to pay respect to this guy or whatever. And I wanted to share one more with RFK Jr. is something he said, because I think you brought this up, Brandon. You brought up the fluoride in the water thing. Yeah. And RFK Jr., believe it or not, he has thoughts on this as well. So let me see. Here he goes.
these huge levels of depression and despair, loneliness in kids. And I don't think that there's a single cause to it. And I think blaming it on, depression about climate is probably oversimplistic. And in fact, I think a lot of the problems we see in kids, and particularly boys, it's probably underappreciated that how much of that is coming from chemical exposures, including a lot of the sexual dysphoria that we're seeing. They're swimming through a soup of toxic chemicals today, and many of those are endocrine disruptors. There's atrazine throughout our water supply. Atrazine, by the way, if you in a lab put atrazine in a tank full of frogs, it will chemically castrate and forcibly feminize every frog. The male frogs will turn into fully viable females able to produce viable eggs. If it's doing that to frogs, it could. There's a lot of other evidence that it's doing it to human beings as well.
Now, John, I think you have something to say, but before you do, I want to ask a question. I'll posit this towards Tennessee Brandon. You're the guest of the show. I know you're the guest here, Tennessee Brandon, so I'm sorry for putting you on the spot with a science question, but can you help me out with this? Are frogs people? Are frogs human beings? Is that a yes or no? Can you help me out with that? Yeah, I didn't think so. I thought frogs and human beings are mammals. Frogs are amphibians. On the evolutionary chart, we diverged a long fucking time ago. And John, I'm guessing you're laughing because what RFK Jr. is saying is what Alex Jones was saying. It's the same thing. Oh, go ahead.
What was going through my? That's why I started cracking up. That's a direct Alex Jones theory.
It's and that's why I said I do actually legitimately believe that the Department of Health and Human Services or Health and Human Sciences or Services it could actually flip RFK because he can believe that you can make him believe anything. And these people are going to be around him, working around him and they're very smart people who can probably convince him to do a lot of the right things, even when he's going to do a lot of dumb things. So I don't know. Who knows? But that was hilarious. I can't believe he actually believes that. That's something that's been widely debunked so much that it's become a meme. And I can't believe he didn't understand that was fake.
Well, the thing you said with the frogs though isn't fake. For people,
the frogs specifically, yeah. But still, the fact that it would never apply to humans, yeah.
For those of you who don't study amphibians for a living out there, what we're talking about here is Alex Jones is very popular for the meme from years ago where he says they're turning the friggin' frogs gay, and he's referencing this because now RFK Jr. is correct. Once again, like most conspiracies, there's a kernel of truth. And then it just explodes out into absolute insanity. Is that yes, it's true that with a certain species of frogs, if you submerge them in water that has this chemical in it, it will activate the process for the frogs to change sexes. Because a lot of animals can do that. I don't know if you guys have seen. There's Netflix had this documentary about these fish, and if there are no males, the female fish will turn into a male to populate the species. Frogs, Jurassic Park, they went over this about how you can control the sex of the reptiles and stuff. Now, that's true. The chemical can alter that with frogs. But instead of taking this information and saying, okay, we should make sure that the EPA, that the government is regulating businesses so they don't get to dump chemicals in the water and disrupt these animal population. Because if you turn 90% of the frogs from males to females, that frog species is going to be endangered. It might go extinct, or at least in that area. Instead of going down that route, they say, they're doing it to people too, because people have the same genetic structure as bullfrogs, in that if it's in the water, it can hurt them. Now, the same goes with fluoride, though. Like with fluoride, you've heard people campaigning that fluoride it calcifies the pineal gland or something like that, and they're using it to control you. At certain levels, fluoride is dangerous, of course, like anything else, and there should be regulations on that. But they just go off into these wild tangents. And I don't know, John. I'm not convinced RFK is going to see the data on this. I'm wrong.
I'm not either. I'm saying this is pure hopium. But of everyone, that's why I say of all of the appointments, I don't think this is one of the most dangerous. I also don't think it's going to last very long because he serves no political purpose to Donald Trump anymore. So, I think he's going to be a scapegoat at some point.
What do you think, Brandon?
I think so too. And I sorry for getting distracted, but the comment section kind of went crazy there just for a minute when we started talking. I saw some like they're eating they were saying they're eating the frogs, and just
eating the frogs.
I read that in Donald Trump's voice, so I kind of got distracted for a minute because I started reading that comment in his voice. But yeah, I just never thought we would be here in. Feels like we're on the movie Idiocracy now, and we're just like,
well,
we very much are, Brandon.
We are, yeah.
It could not be more accurate.
When you stepped away, Brando, someone wrote Brando is Brando. And I you guys remember in Idiocracy, Brando is not what plants crave. For those of you wondering what that reference was, we do get a lot of Idiocracy references because how could you not? How could you not, right? How could it reminds me of when Christopher Hitchens, he used to write for The Nation magazine, and I remember him saying that he went to North Korea. He went to visit North Korea, and he got to write about his time there. And when he showed up, he says, "I'm not going to mention 1984. I'm not going to mention 1984." And one day he said, "Fuck, I have to mention 1984. There's no way around it." It's like you can't look at Matt Gaetz being appointed to Attorney General and think anything other than Idiocracy. I guarantee we'll have an exact situation where Trump will appoint someone as Secretary of the Interior, and he's like, "I have no idea what the Secretary of the Interior does." That's going to happen. That it's I don't know what you can do about that and how sad it's going to be, but I think RFK Jr. is honestly the best example of that, and we're in for a wild ride.
We really are.
I don't know. Any closeout thoughts you got for us, Tennessee Brando, with your time here?
Yeah, man, we are in for some we're in for some crazy times. I think we're in for it for the next 2 years at least. And like we talked about earlier, if we can just get enough people motivated to go to the midterms, maybe we can see something start to change. We're just going to have to hold on. I was talking to Coach D earlier when I heard the news of RFK, and I was like, "What do we do?" And he's like, "Well, we just hold on to the midterms. We just brace for impact at this point." And that's what it feels like to me right now. Like I said earlier, I just keep saying to myself, well, we still have December and we still have till January 20th before this insanity takes over. So I do kind of feel like I hate to say this, I feel like we're on a plane and someone has said, "Okay, everybody, like we're going to try to get this thing to land, and we might have a rough landing. Everybody brace." That's kind of how it feels. I know it's kind of a hopeless feeling, but we just got to hang in there. And like we said earlier, keep having the good conversations and just try to keep a voice of reason during all this, because it's going to be a crazy 2 years for sure. And who knows how long we're going to be locked into it.
Yeah, that's true. The 2 years are all we can hope for. Well, because like if the 2 years, nothing changes, it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. I wanted to bring up this comment here. Thank you guys for all the comments. I know they're for Tennessee Brandon, but we really appreciate them. We really appreciate
them. We also really appreciate you subscribing to the Left Wing.
Be sure to subscribe to the Left Wing Pod.
I wanted to bring up this comment that Liz Presley wrote, and Brainworms 2024. Woo! I don't know if you guys know this. I forget that people aren't as immersed in this as we are. But what Liz is talking about is the fact that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has literal brainworms. He literally has brainworms. And the story behind it is he started getting these headaches and he didn't know why. And if you remember his uncle, Ted Kennedy, he died of brain cancer in the early 2000s or mid 2000s, something like that. And so people started telling him that, "Hey, man, your uncle died of brain cancer. You're getting headaches. You should probably go get this checked out." So he went to the doctor. They did the scan and everything. And the doctor told him, "Oh, wow, we see the mark here. You do have brain cancer." And he says, he's like, "But I'm going to send you to an expert on this, someone who does this stuff all the time, to get a second opinion, to get clarification." So he went to the specialist, and the specialist says, "Oh, no, this just looks like brain cancer. It's not. What it actually is a parasitic worm that has entered your body and into your brain, and it chewed up some of your brain and lived on its course, and it died. That's what you're getting the headache from." So he has literal brain worms and an actual hole in his brain. And that's the one thing I always say I do commend RFK on, is that he's continuing the Kennedy tradition of having a hole in your head. He's doing that very well. You got to give him credit there. I mean, the man is going strong with a family. Bobby Kennedy Sr., John F. Kennedy would be that's the kind of show you're on, Tennessee Brandon. Just so you know, this is what the Left Wing Pod is.
No, That's my kind of dark humor.
That's good shit. That's good
Speaking
shit.
of humor, before we wrap this up, TJ, I did want to bring up the one piece of good news that came out today. That not that it gives me hope for anything that's actually going to happen, but it just gives me a little hope in humanity. Did you see what happened since we were talking about turning the frogs gay? Did you see what happened to InfoWars today?
Yes, I did see that.
The Onion bought InfoWars. So for anyone who hasn't been following this saga, Alex Jones was sued into oblivion by the families of the Sandy Hook victims because of the conspiracy theories he made about them. And he was forced to auction off InfoWars, and The Onion bought it. And The Onion is a long-running satirical newspaper, or whatever you want to call it, that always fucking hits. One of the highest hit rates of any institution, whether it be news, comedy, political commentary, whatever. They always fucking nail it. And they swooped in and they bought up InfoWars. And I cannot wait to see what they turn that into. It gives me a little bit of excitement after a very, very long slog of bad news headlines.
Yeah, because so much of his stuff, so much of his headlines read like The Onion anyway. You know, it's one of those things where, like, you read his headlines, you're like, "Is that real?" And so I think that's kind of appropriate.
I saw an article talking about how The Onion spoke to the parents of the Sandy Hook victims before they purchased it, and they said that they wanted to, kind of get their blessing on it and everything. You got to wonder how that conversation went. It's like, folks, we're very sorry for your loss, but we want to do something really funny. We want to do something really funny. Like that's just like, because that's kind of the instead of there.
And they were like, "Fuck yes, This is what my son died for."
Yeah, and speaking of dark humor, I'd be remiss if not going through this. After I told the RFK joke, we got ouch, we got damn, we got bad joke, we got over the line, we got and listen, everyone, goddamn, listen, every
subscriptions, TJ, they're unsubscribing already.
Everyone who shied away from that joke, this is why no one will remember your name. Okay, that I'm just letting you know. Grow some confidence. If there's anyone you could joke about, it's dead Kennedys and awful Kennedys. Who else would you rather I make fun of, right? Like just someone nice, someone good.
And honestly, TJ, is exactly what we're talking about. This is the kind of humor that needs to be allowed in left-wing discourse in order to break through to like normie Joe who listens to Joe Rogan twice a month, and that's all of his political news. This is what gets people to vote. I cannot stress this enough. You need to get more comfortable with this if you want to win election.
Yeah, I just saw someone say, "Don't get me wrong, I laughed." So
yeah, there you go. Yeah, we're professionals here, folks. One of my favorite. I started saying this in high school, and I still say it. Whenever someone either says that my jokes have gone too far, or someone tries to be funny and they're not, I have the same response. Like, how about we leave the jokes to TJ? How about we do that? Okay, I was like, you guys getting mad about that? Hey, it's fine, whatever. But all right, we want to wrap this thing up, John?
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much for coming and watching The Left Wing today. If you were one of our over 1,000 live viewers, we very much appreciate you. And again, cannot stress this enough, hit that subscribe button. And if you're one of our hopefully maybe hundreds of viewers who are watching this clip on YouTube later, also hit that subscribe button. And if you want to know where to find Brando, well, you probably already do because he brought you here. But Brando, for the rest of them, tell us where they can find you.
Well, I'm Tennessee Brando on YouTube and on most platforms. On Instagram and TikTok, I'm TN_Brando. So you can find me out there. But guys, I really appreciate you having me on. And everybody go over and subscribe to the Left Wing Pod. I was glad that we was able to run this show on both channels and bring our audiences together. You're two of my favorite voices, and it's just always a pleasure to sit down and talk with you. I just like to sit back and be in a different seat. It's like a lot of times I'm the one doing it. I interviewed TJ last week, and it's like now I just like to sit back and have the conversation. And I've saw a lot of people in the comments. Someone said they love the collaboration, so I'm glad we made it happen. And everybody go over and subscribe to the Left Wing Pod. And let's keep having these kind of conversations, and let's learn how to laugh.
Let's do it. Thanks so much, Tennessee Brando. Folks, really appreciate you watching the show. It's been great. It's been fun. It felt kind of odd because I feel like we were on his show more than he was on ours. But look, it's great. It's first time everything. So thanks a lot. We'll catch you guys later.
Thank you.